Yesterday, we witnessed the end of an era as C9 fell to TSM and failed to advance to Worlds for the first time in 7 years. Now today, Team Liquid and FlyQuest are in charge of their own fate. Let's see what kind of legacy they can create. I'm James Dash Patterson, joined as always by my usual crew. It's Probably Crumbs and Mark Z. But gents, we're living in a world without Cloud9.
And I don't know if that's the world I want to live in, Dash, where the most dominant spring champion doesn't get to make it to Worlds. Feels bad, but alas, the better teams improved and we'll move on.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that the better teams moved on, but when you just look at how good they were earlier on in the year, it's insane. 35-2, they lost 2 games, one regular season, one in postseason, and then they won the first 9 of summer. And then they drop all the way out of Worlds contention. It's probably the greatest drop ever, at least in North America, in terms of fall from grace. But it is important to remember that they were really good back then. They did set a number of records. They also got Sven his first title in NA. He's the first player to ever get EU and NA. A number of guys won their first championship. So it was still a success, despite how sour the year ends.
I think that's the key there, right, is that it did end on a sour note, but it's good to reflect on all of the dominance that Cloud9 did display throughout the year, pushing a lot of the teams that we now see in a position to represent North America in ways that maybe they would have never expected. But just reflecting on that series yesterday, probably thoughts on TSM ending that losing streak and qualifying for Worlds in the first time in 2 years.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see TSM play this way. I think a lot of this year I was pretty critical about their consistency issues and kind of like which lane are they going to play around Doublelift or Broken Blade. It seems like in this series they kind of figured it out. They played around topside most of these games. They played a lot of range tops like the Lucian and the Jace. And the fact that Spica and Bjergsen were able to kind of support Broken Blade's like kind of newly revitalized aggressive style made them extremely successful against Cloud9. And this is kind of what you want. You want to be able to have these teams peak at the right time and finally get their identity.
Spica as well, stepping up, having a wider range of champions he can play, the Nidalees, the Eves, and even the Skarner as well. He is contributing to that top side snowball. If your jungler is not playing well, it's very hard to play around top lane.
And that makes it easy for Doublelift to be willing to play weak side. You can play weak side if you trust that your top side is actually going to carry the game, if they're going to deliver on the promise of give me these champions, give me the attention. And they've done so thus far. Ever since Golden Guardians knocked them out of the winner's bracket, they have just been riding that loser's bracket in this new form, and they continue to improve with every game.
I think that's, the improvement has been marked, to say the least, but one of the most notable things for me is that in that improvement, Doublelift is very much finding himself in that supportive role as opposed to front and center, like we're so used to seeing him on so many of his teams.
It would have actually been a pretty disastrous point in his career if you think about it from the holistic view of, okay, really bad split on Team Liquid going on to TSM and then failing to accomplish much on TSM. Had that happened, it would have been a really bad look considering if he would have drawn a ton of resources. So willing to take that step back and allow the newer members to carry, or I guess at that point, Broken Blade being one of the oldest members now behind Bjergsen, having them carry is a really smart move from him.
Let's take a quick look at the bracket and see how we got here. C9's loss yesterday means that they fall just short of the finish line and the chance at finals, with TSM advancing and locking in a spot on the world stage. Today, though, we got FlyQuest and Team Liquid facing off to see who will take on TSM on Saturday of next week and who will secure their spot in the finals.
Yeah, it's crazy to remember that as well. TSM is still in the title hunt. I know, he said, Doublelift said, oh, the lower bracket saved my career. It also saved their chances at actually crowning themselves the Kings of North America. They could still go as the actual #1 seed, and they're looking pretty good right now.
All righty. Well, before we take a deeper look into today's matchup, we've got some important business to take care of. It's time for Jeopardash, gentlemen. We'll start out with an easy FlyQuest Team Liquid rapid-fire questions. I know you like to blame your incorrect answers on not having all the info, so here's what you need to know right off the top. These questions include the whole summer split, not just the postseason, the whole summer split. The answer is either Team Liquid or FlyQuest. It literally could not be any simpler for you. Just either say Team Liquid or FlyQuest. So between Team Liquid and FlyQuest, question number 1. These are on a timer, so you're only going to have about 15 seconds. Which team, TL or Fly, has the higher win percentage with a lead at 10?
I'll go TL just because they win more games.
Oh, this is such a tough one. There's a lot of choices.
You have until it flips over.
Yeah, I'm going to say FlyQuest.
FlyQuest.
Oh, FlyQuest is the call, right as it goes. I don't know if you saw the green there.
I didn't see it.
They were
police
slow.
on
I want
that
these
one.
guys a little snappier
Yeah.
with
Woo!
me, all
Yeah,
right?
exactly. All right.
All right.
Which team, TL or Fly, has the higher win percentage with First Blood?
FlyQuest.
I feel like FlyQuest always gets first blood.
Yeah, I think FlyQuest always gets first split, so this is a
So it's
trick.
like a trick.
I'm going
Yeah.
TL
Actually,
here.
Yeah,
The
go
fact that-
TL.
No, all right, I'll stay FlyQuest.
All right. Oh, it is TL. There it is, boys.
It's all
Someone gets
Wow.
too many of them.
Mind
It's like
gaming the
the
game
ratio goes
itself. All right. I like it. I like it. All right. So probably the only one with 2 correct answers. Which team, TL or Fly, has more Dragon Souls? This would be total Dragon Souls.
Since this is full split, right, including
Yeah.
regular season,
Yeah.
so
go
Team
TL.
Liquid had really bad Dragon Control for a while. It's got to be FlyQuest.
There it
Fly has
is.
just played more games. They have played so many more playoff.
They have played more playoff games. That's another one I like.
I was thinking that they
Crumb's
were
calling
bad
out there.
in the
Yeah,
middle of the
I think they were
split.
bad at Dragon Control. Or
Which
I think TL was
team
bad then.
has a higher Baron percentage?
Just getting Baron. TL.
Right, yeah,
Okay,
this is
we're
a
running out of
50-50,
time.
right?
We're running out of time.
Yeah, I'm going TL. This has got to be TL. Baron
It is
All right.
TL. That is correct. Well done. Probably's on fire right now, I
Yeah,
feel
this-
like.
he's-
My answer for
Give
all
me,
these
yeah,
is
that's
TL, and
50-50
I get half
chance.
them
It's
right.
great.
There you go. Well, Mark, there are 5 questions, so
no.
unfortunately you can't get half. Well, you might. You're either going to get just
Higher.
above or just below. Which team has higher Drake?
Fly.
Yeah,
Fly.
I think
Team
this has gotta
Liquid
be
has
Fly again.
won games without a Dragon Soul, with the enemy having it. So
Well, Mark
Yeah.
is guessing Team Liquid.
No, I switched on
as-
FlyQuest.
No, Mark, you said you guessed
No,
Team
I
Liquid
was
for all of
kidding.
them. Unfortunately for Mark, he comes in just under 50%, but the
No,
other two
that
of
was
you,
FlyQuest.
fantastically done. I tell you what, though, Mark, you're going to have a couple more stabs at it because I have some general playoff questions for you. These are no longer limited to FlyQuest or Team Liquid, so you can say literally whatever you want, I guess. Now, which team has scored the
that?
most Bud Light aces in playoffs this split?
FlyQuest.
Bud Light aces.
FlyQuest. Yep, FlyQuest.
So Crumbs is
FlyQuest.
he's sticking with his FlyQuest
Yeah.
call. Is it because
Yeah.
of how many games they've played? Is that why?
Not only is it the games, but I'm pretty sure we had a question similar to this last week. It was about aces, about Bud Light aces, and FlyQuest was in
And there weren't that many.
So
there were
I'm
like
going
2
FlyQuest.
aces total in the
Okay.
playoffs before.
All right, so FlyQuest across the board from these dudes.
TSM's played a lot, but
Let's see. Let's see if that's correct or not.
I knew it was. I even said it was TSM after yesterday's
doesn't
game because
count.
FlyQuest hasn't
See,
played yet.
Y'all got stuck in your heads with the
No,
TL
I
and
even
FlyQuest
said it before
stuff.
it flipped. I bet it's TSM now because they've played an
Maybe.
extra series.
Only guessing TL.
Yeah,
and
Crumbs
FlyQuest.
was 100%. After I said it could be literally anything else, he was still thinking TL FlyQuest. Okay, which team in playoffs has never lost or taken a tower before 15 minutes?
Dignitas. Actually, no, 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves.
Ooh, 100
got
Thieves.
stomped
Okay,
harder.
he's got the pivot to 100 Thieves.
100 Thieves.
What about the other two of you? This is a tough one.
This is all. This is not all time though. This is the split.
Yeah, it's this playoffs.
I'm gonna say Evil Geniuses. I do
I was
think it's
thinking-
one of the lower teams.
But I feel like they must.
Lower
have-
what? There's the 2 lowest are Dig and 100 Thieves. It has to be.
TL's only played 3
EG did
games.
a lot
I'll go
better.
TL. I'll go TL.
Yeah, EG
I think
played
they
more
played slow
games.
games. TL.
Probably, do you have an answer? And I want to make sure you
I
get
think
an answer
I'm
before-
going. I think I'm doing EG. They played pretty slow in playoffs.
So we have 100 Thieves, EG, and you said TL, Mark?
Team Liquid. They've only
Team
played 3
Liquid.
games.
All
And one
right.
was slow.
3
Never
different
taken
answers.
a tower though.
Let's get the reveal, shall we?
Huzzah!
Oh my God,
Team
really?
Liquid.
Oh wow.
Remember the games. It was a really slow game 1. Game 2, Hanser was slapping, but then he kept dying, and it slowed the game down. And I don't even remember game 3, but I'm pretty sure they were getting double killed bot lane, but they weren't getting turrets. Like the Braum was always killing bot against Golden Guardians.
Mark, that's some serious redemption for your rapid fire rounds.
Stuck with TL.
I don't know
done,
if I'm
my
above
friend.
500.
Yeah,
but let's
it's
pretend I am.
true, actually. You're stuck with TL all the way through. And
Just kept flipping the coin.
Team Liquid.
All right,
Team
I
Liquid.
guess not.
Team
Who
Liquid.
would have thought they
Team
would have brought it
Liquid.
all back for you? All right, well, now everyone knows the LCS is full of talent, but today I wanted to explore one of the greatest legacies that NA could have had. Now let's take a look at another installment of great moments in fake history.
In the spring 2017 finals, TSM went up 2 games against Cloud9, but Cloud9 fought back and took TSM to Game 5. The action was incredible. The tension, palpable. But the real history was about to be made off the rift. As the iconic melody of Silver Scrapes pumped into the stands, a lone figure stepped up onto the stage and changed the world forever. It's said that for those in attendance that day, there was a tear in every eye and a hand over every ear. Mark caught the attention of Glenn Goldstein, the producer behind such hits as the American National Anthem and Who Let the Dogs Out. He knew a once-in-a-generation talent when he saw one. With Goldstein's help, Mark would become an instant sensation, and his cover of both Silver Scrapes and later Ed Sheeran's The Shape of You would rocket Mark to the top of most charts. But it wasn't all champagne wishes and caviar dreams for Mark, and as his fame in the music world increased, tensions rose within the LCS as Mark attempted to split his attention between music and League of Legends. Mark would only allow his correct predictions to be aired, demanded at least one nap per live segment, refused to analyze any game with a Morellonomicon in it, or a fifth pick Renekton. Mark's increasingly ridiculous demands put strain on his friendships and the State Farm analyst desk. It became clear it was time to part ways. Now going by the Mark Z, Mark went all in on his stream. But after a series of flops, he discovered his producer had been embezzling his money. Zimmerman was broke. Never one to admit defeat, Mark picked himself up and vowed to work his way back to the top. He got a gig working on the Emerald Lounge on the Carnival Cruise Line, allowing Mark an opportunity to do what he loves, perform. As for the LCS, well, turns out Mark leaving was just about the best thing that could have ever happened to the broadcast. Viewership tripled, advertising dollars quadrupled after the league became sponsored by the U.S. Mint, and LCS teams, well, they won a record straight 5 World Championship titles.
And sing along with me.
This has once again been great moments from fake history.
Mark, what are you still doing here? Didn't you hear? If you weren't here,
I
5
love the
straight
idea.
worlds.
Parallel Universe Mark has a great idea about demanding naps, and I'm going to take one right now. I've agreed that's a great ask out of my producers. I'm taking a nap. I'm over it.
Oh, what could have been?
Forget
What
that
could have been
segment.
here in North America? Mark's going to take a nap. We're going to take a quick breather. When we return, you'll see us here for more LCS Countdown. Welcome back to the LCS Countdown. We are just minutes away from diving into our best of 5 series between Team Liquid and FlyQuest. Speaking of 5s, all playoffs long, we've been comparing team speed throughout this split in the Samsung SSD Fast 5. So we're going to do the same exact thing here. The stat that jumps out to me is the one at the top there, gents.
Yeah.
First Blood, 4 minutes, 2 whole minutes faster than Team Liquid.
That is an insanely early first blood average for FlyQuest, but it's important to remember that Santorin is the king of level 2 ganks and getting first blood off them. So those are coming in between 2:30 and 3 minutes, which is really going to pull the average down and speaks to how good he has been over the course of this split.
And there's some more early first bloods that they have gotten against Cloud9. If you remember the Lilia invade, they first
level
got
ones.
Lever very early on, and then another invade when they were Graves, Nautilus, and Senna flashing onto Sven, who didn't have Arcane Shift. They killed him as well. So these very early level ones are drawing the first blood so much down that at least Team Liquid has to come prepared with a level 1, because FlyQuest came out swinging.
I love that call out. That FlyQuest always has a plan for the early game, and you can see it there more often than not, netting them first blood and a small gold advantage. Of course, the rest of the statistics when it came to Dragons, Towers, Barons, and Souls, they're pretty much in lockstep, and so it indicates that we are in, perhaps for a very close series today.
Yeah, a lot of them were TL favored in the more like team-oriented objective control category, and I think that speaks to TL's play style of being a little less scrappy, a little more focused on getting objectives, and slow playing and grinding out their leads.
Now, there are plenty of storied veterans in the LCS, but the Young Bloods have shown their mettle, especially Team Liquid's bot laner, Tactical. So I want to talk about him coming into this series.
Tactical. I mean, this guy has had to fill core or double lift shoes, but he's had probably the best sensei you could ever have when it comes to taking that role. So he's done it really, really well. I think what you expected out of an AD that is a rookie with a team that has so many veterans is exactly what he delivered. He's done his job and then some.
Yeah, and I remember in spring when he subbed in, it was just such a small sample size. It was hard to really gauge this player's skill. But over the summer split, it's actually really hard to find a just really poor performance out of Tactical. He's a very consistent AD, and when you think about the gray ADs, usually they're up there with like high mechanical skill and high consistency, and that's what Tactical has right now.
All of that played into him earning Rookie of the Year. So we've got an interview with the man himself and me. Let's take a listen. Thank you very much. That's right. I'm here with Tactical, Rookie of the Year. Not even of the split anymore, my friend. You are Rookie of the entire year. First of all, congratulations on the achievement. But give me your first impressions. Did you expect this? What are you feeling right now?
It just feels really good because it just feels like a big accomplishment that I was able to like break through and be like a special standout.
Well, okay, let's talk about, though, the pressure that was placed on your shoulders this year, because you're talking pretty casually about a massive achievement and some pretty big shoes that you've had to fill. 2020, the big story coming in, and I'm sorry, we can't ignore it, was you being the replacement to Double Lift on Team Liquid next to Core JJ. Those are big shoes to fill. So on day one, let's go all the way back to Jan 1, 2020. What were you hoping to achieve? What would you have been happy with at the end of the season?
So initially at the beginning of the year, my goal was to have another good split or good year in Academy. My end goal was to find an LCS starting spot in 2021.
Okay.
But I guess things ended up well this year, and it's working out great so far.
Yeah, we hit the fast forward button on that timeline by a whole 12 months. Well done there. On top of having to fill big shoes, though, you also have had to play next to big shoes. So talk to me about Core JJ and how he's aided you in your development as a player so that you can rise to this level so quick.
So I think he's very patient, nice. He's like the perfect teacher almost. He's like really good at explaining how he thinks about the game or his thought processes. So it helps me line up our ideas together. And I think a lot of times we agree on most situations. So it doesn't take that long to come to a good conclusion between us.
Fair enough. Well, when we talk to rookies all the time, we're talking about the veterans next to you, right? And I'm sure, hey, some credit where credit's due. They're experienced players, and I'm sure he's helped you learn. But I don't think often enough we talk to the rookies about what effect they've had on the rest of their team. So as one of the, younger guys in the league, as one of the, the fresh blood, how do you feel, NA is going? Like, what is your goal for the region? How do you hope to kind of push and ultimately grow the region like someone, Core JJ has done?
I think that I just need to bring a high-level gameplay to the table because I do think there might be a lack of like super high-level gameplay overall. Mm-hmm. Maybe because I'm surrounded by so many veterans that I've been spoiled by a lot of good gameplay and we've been doing well. But I've noticed that the gap can be quite big sometimes depending on performances during games. So I want to just raise the bar of the gameplay in NA.
All right. Let's talk mindset going into the weekend, though. As I mentioned, you've already locked up a world spot, but we still want to win the LCS. And to do that, we got to get through FlyQuest to make it to the finals. How are you feeling about that matchup? Because most people expected you to be going up against Cloud9 here, but we had that 3-2 victory from FlyQuest.
Yeah, it was a surprise for us, too, actually. We thought Cloud9 was going to beat Fly. But since we ended up playing against Fly, I'd say our team is doing pretty well right now. We're kind of chill, so I'm not too worried. And it really just depends on who shows up.
What are you feeling? Are you feeling a smash of a series, or are you thinking that this FlyQuest, who's impressed a lot of people in playoffs, is going to play you guys close?
I say if we win one game, we'd probably take it all 3-0.
Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, there it is. Rookie of the Year Tactical. Congratulations again, my friend. Thank you for the interview. Best of luck in your series ahead of you. 3-0 is the call. There it is. All right, dude. You have a good one, all right?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, from here, we're heading back to the desk to intro that very match. 3-0 is the call if they take the first game. Some great insight from a very talented player and a charming interviewer. But now I'd like to dial in on today's matchup between Team Liquid and FlyQuest, where the teams hold a 1-1 record against each other in the regular season. Now, in a Verizon post-game interview after their series with EG, Solo mentioned they didn't really see Team Liquid as a threat in playoffs, Crumbs.
Not at all.
We were joking about how we need to make it look really hard against EG so that TL would pick us, because we knew that, like, we would whoop TL's ass so bad if they picked us, and we'd be the freest finals run. But, this is just going to be, a tough task beating C9. I think they're the best team. So we'll just have to do our best and see what happens.
I mean, one side thinks it's going to be a 3-0. The other one thinks it's going to be a stomp. Somebody's wrong here.
Somebody's wrong
really
here.
wrong. Not just
So-
a little wrong.
If you look at the entire split, they've gone 1-1. But the story that the games tell is very different. See, when they first faced off, it was FlyQuest playing with Don't Mash Me, with Mash. And when they were playing this game, they were actually really ahead. They were playing a solid game, the regular game plan that they had, but it was up until a Baron throw where FlyQuest ended up losing to Team Liquid. And this was part of the string of Team Liquid plays or Team Liquid wins that never really felt like this was their win. And it all started from, once again, a very proficient level 1 from FlyQuest. So they got off to a great start. The game's going fine, right? Team Liquid is still holding on there with their standard roams into the mid lane, but then past the Baron throw, Team Liquid manages to get the game back. And then when they face off again, it's Solo that has Renekton that just completely styles on Impact in the top lane. If you remember this gank, Brox is trying to gank for Impact. Impact dies to the minion aggro, and if you are ever playing top lane against a Renekton and the wave is pushing back after you've died to him, you can basically FF15 at that point. That's what happened here. So FlyQuest has shown to have at least some advantage against Team Liquid all season long, which is why I felt like Solo could say that this is going to be a lopsided game for them, because they have played them already and it's been fairly easy both times.
Well, as you say, somebody's got to be wrong in their prediction, but I like the call-outs to all the advantages that FlyQuest might find, as well as rehashing some of that history between these two teams. But it's all about looking at those lane matchups just like we did yesterday. I had the three of you target each lane and tell me where you think the advantage lies. And while the groupings are all similar, there seems to be a little bit of discrepancy across some of these lanes.
I think it's also really close. Like in a lot of these positions, it is pretty right next to the middle. But I think in general, it feels like top lane and top side of the map is going to go a little bit in favor of FlyQuest, and bot side should be a little bit in favor of Team Liquid.
Yeah, I mean, move over, Mark. I'm the new Santorin stan. I rated him the highest in this matchup, and I've recently been liking Broxa more and more, so this was a hard decision. But the way I want to differentiate the Santorin points is I want to just give a couple points to the Solo and Power Vivo and Turtle, so all my heads should be slightly shifted to the right when you take away my Santorin points and just distribute them properly.
Right. So your point is that Santorin's effect over
Bumps
Broxa
everything.
actually bumps all of his lane performance.
In TL's isolation, I think Core JJ and Tactical can outperform the bot lane. Same thing with Jensen versus Evil in isolation. But this game is not played that way. I think Santorin's going to make his mark. But if Santorin is shut down, I do expect these lanes to start going in TL's favor.
I do feel like the jungle matchup is quite volatile, but maybe not as what we are led to, or what we're showing with how favoring we are to Santorin. Because the thing for Broxa is that he's only had 3 games in playoffs in NA. This is someone that has gone to finals at Worlds. He's very capable in these high-pressure situations, and much like a lot of the other veterans on Team Liquid, they rise to the level of the play in playoffs. So Broxa showed very good games in the 3-0 in the playoff series, so this could be a player that just plays chill in the regular season. When the playoffs time comes around, turns it on. So if he shows that kind of performance again today against Santorin, all of that favoritism that we think Santorin has in this matchup could just go completely the other way, because this is why Broxa is on Liquid. I mean, this guy has shown to be very good.
Yeah, Mark, we talk about advantages topside for FlyQuest. Let's go to the mid lane, where it seems to be the most contentious, perhaps most even in terms of the matchup.
And I think it's really interesting when you look at their champ pools. Jensen has mostly been playing control mages with some assassins sprinkled in. And here he has enough in his pool that you can't really ban him out unless you're going the targeted Bjergsen 5 bans thrown at him. And I think Jensen is the better individual mechanical player. He plays lane a little bit better, and I expect him to be great this series. The one thing that kind of swings it in PoE's favor a little bit is he has kind of comp-specific counter picks. If you pick a dive comp, he's got the Swain in his back pocket where you're jumping into this monstrous AoE short-range team fighter. If you don't pick enough engage, he can go Kog'Maw as his counter pick and just poke you out. And so I think there is a small advantage in his champ pool and the ability to not just with his late counter picks pick to counter his lane, but pick to counter an entire enemy team comp, which he might be able to utilize well versus Team Liquid.
And I'm really curious to see if these are the mid laners that are going to bust out the Lucian mid. We've already seen TSM play it into the top lane. The ability to flex this champion between 2 to maybe even 3 lanes is a really strong advantage right now. This champion is very viable into a ton of different matchups. So if one of the two can get it, all those counter picks just kind of get thrown out the window because of how dominant Lucian can be.
Well, this is where I'm coming back to Prawley's point, because we've teased mid-lane matchup, for example, as being quite even. Both of these players perfectly capable of finding advantages. But then you look back at that jungle, Prawley, and we've got to take into account the effect each of these players might have on that lane.
Yeah, and definitely Brox's stats have been improving, but again, I'm just going to keep standing Santorin so I can outbeat Mark in this contest. But really, it's just Santorin's ability to stay consistently unpredictable. They had these level 1s against Cloud9 where you couldn't really predict where he's going to start, but the one thing that you can count on is he always gets these early game advantages and is able to spread them through the team. You'll see these level 2 games come out and you think like, oh yeah, that's so obvious. But the thing is, even if he doesn't want to do it, he's putting out pressure because you're thinking like, oh, this is a volatile matchup. He might be ganking this. So the fact that he does these kind of excessive pressure plays around the map and he's able to make these level 1s work for him makes him a really hard but kind of predictable jungler that is hard to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, Mark, what's interesting for me is taking a look at the K+A from Santorin being much greater at 15 than Broxa, but then taking a look at these gold statistics for each of the teams and seeing that still with less kills at 15, Team Liquid is finding themselves more gold, so playing the map perhaps a little bit better, while FlyQuest is looking for those fights.
Yeah, FlyQuest definitely a little bit scrappier, and I think when you look at their gold graphs as well, you can see how this can come to light. You know, both teams are playing actually a pretty similar style with a heavy focus on going for Drakes, and they're willing to give up some advantages. So this is TL versus Golden Guardians, the previous series they just played in playoffs. Golden Guardians indexed more in the early game. They were controlling Rift Heralds, and during that time, Team Liquid is focused on getting the Drakes. And what happens is around 25 to 30 minutes, you're going to have these monstrous gold swings in favor of the team that stacked the Drakes because you're able to force 5v5s of the Dragon, and should you get them, you get the soul, and you can quickly snowball out the game. And when you look at FlyQuest, it's a very similar story where against C9, they have these great level 1s to give them a little bit more of an advantage, but then it's the similar kind of thing where it stalls out for the most part in the mid game with big jumps once they start getting these souls, because that's where they've kind of been investing their resources.
And I actually think that lines up very well with who their playmakers are and how they approach these team fights. You have 2 mid laners that love playing control mages, that love to shine when it comes to team fights. That is what they really emphasize on. And then you've got 2 supports that know how to start fights just at the drop of a hat. So that combination makes it very deadly to go into those mid to late game team fights that suddenly just blow the game wide open, get the Dragon, get the Baron, and suddenly you've turned a 2,000 gold deficit into a 6,000 gold lead.
2 teams poised for plenty of mid to late game team fights, and that's the kind of League of Legends I like to watch. But with all of that discussion in mind, I want to take a look at the predictions from you 3 gents. We had Crumbs calling out the TSM victory yesterday in 3-2 fashion, although it was a 3-1. Here again, the FlyQuest call over Team Liquid, so sticking to his guns on that one, Crumbs.
Yeah, well, this is one that I have had since the beginning of playoffs, since we even saw that the bracket was going to play out this way. So I feel like FlyQuest having the number of Team Liquid, or at least having good matches against them in the regular season, coupled with their improvement in a very long amount of games in the playoff series versus Team Liquid having only 3 games, should give them a better advantage when it comes to drafting. And we already know that if the jungle matchup goes as we expect it to be, I think FlyQuest could get off to a great start and never let go.
All right, well, Prawley and Mark are going with the sure thing, the predicted winner of the series.
Being right,
call
I can only
Crumbs.
say Team Liquid.
Yeah. There it is, exactly. Let's hand it over
know what
to
happens
Freaking
when you
Azale
It's worked.
to get us into that first game of the series.